You know the official story about pandas. They're cute but adorably helpless, which is why they're almost extinct. But like a lot of what we hear, that's a lie. According to today's Wall Street Journal, quote, "The real panda is a secret stud with a taste for flesh and a fearsome bite. Pandas, it turns out, could easily kill you if they felt like it. Thank God they don't. They're not against sex either. They just hate unsexy zoos. But when they're in the wild, male pandas engage in a fierce sexual contest. The winner has sex 40 times in a single afternoon. It's a good thing pandas are so distracted by their personal lives, or humans would be the endangered species. Something else to be grateful for. That's it for us tonight. Jimmy Kimmel is in for Sean.
Really? Really? That's a great line. All right, Tucker, great show. Thank you. And this is a Fox News alert. President Trump's longtime personal attorney, Michael Cohen, just had his office, his home, and his hotel that he was staying in raided by the FBI today in an early morning raid. Now, what that means is Mueller's witch hunt investigation is now a runaway train that is clearly careening off the tracks. Plus, a U.S.-led response to Syria. It could happen any moment. We're watching throughout the hour. And President Trump is currently weighing options against the Assad regime following a devastating apparent gas attack against innocent men, women, and children in the eastern suburbs of Damascus. And also tonight, the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, she is speaking out and throwing cold water on James Comey and many of his public statements. We're going to cover all of this, and yes, I will have my response to Jimmy Kimmel's apology coming up later in the program. We have a lot to get to. Big breaking news night, big breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight we have an explosive new chapter in Mueller's partisan witch hunt. Now, we have now entered a dangerous new phase, and there's no turning back from this. It is clear, as I have been warning, Mueller is out to get the president, and it appears at any cost. Here's what happened. Upon referral from special counselor Robert Mueller, the FBI has raided the office, the home, and the hotel room of Michael Cohen, the personal attorney of the President of the United States. Now, the FBI reportedly seized records related to Cohen's payment to this porn star, Stormy Daniels, among other items. And according to Bloomberg tonight, this all came after the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, recommended that the Cohen investigation be pursued by federal prosecutors in New York. Now, keep in mind, Cohen was never part of the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. This is now officially an all-hands-on-deck effort to totally malign and, if possible, impeach the President of the United States. Now, Mueller and Rosenstein have declared what is a legal war on the president. And a source close to President Trump tonight is telling Fox News that Mueller's investigation is way out of control. My message tonight to Mueller is simple. If you have evidence of collusion, any at all, show it to us or end this partisan investigation. The country is hanging by a thread tonight, and you don't seem to care. The so-called Russia collusion investigation has now evolved from a baseless start to a criminal prosecution. Let's see, a Paul Manafort, from a 12-year-old payments from the Ukraine to a payment to a porn star named Stormy Daniels. Now, Mueller and Rosenstein, they're truly fulfilling the mainstream media's fantasy here, at least attempting to. Now, in fact, despite all of today's major breaking news, the fake news was totally obsessed with all Michael Cohen. Now, ultimately, President Trump was forced to address this Cohen issue during a meeting with military leaders. Here's what he said.
So I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys, good man. And it's a disgraceful situation. It's a total witch hunt. I've been saying it for a long time. I've wanted to keep it down. We've given, I believe, over 1 million pages worth of documents to the special counsel. They continue to just go forward. And here we are talking about Syria. We're talking about a lot of serious things with the greatest fighting force ever. And I have this witch hunt constantly going on. It's a disgrace. It's frankly a real disgrace. It's an attack on our country in a true sense. It's an attack on what we all stand for. So when I saw this and when I heard it like you did. I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. They found no collusion whatsoever with Russia. The reason they found it is there was no collusion at all. No collusion. This is the most biased group of people. These people have the biggest conflicts of interest I've ever seen. The Attorney General made a terrible mistake. when he did this and when he recused himself, or he should have certainly let us know if he was going to recuse himself, and we would have put a different attorney general in. We've had that hanging over us now from the very, very beginning. And yet the other side, they don't even bother looking. And the other side is where there are crimes, and those crimes are obvious. Lies under oath all over the place, emails that are knocked out, that are acid washed and deleted. Nobody's ever seen. 33,000 emails are deleted after getting a subpoena for Congress, and nobody bothers looking at that.
The president is exactly right. Not a chance. You think Hillary Clinton's lawyers, were they raided after it was determined she bought and paid for that phony Russian dossier to influence the general election? Not a chance. No investigation. Any raids, any arrests after the massive FISA abuse allegations were exposed? Not a single chance. Were there any raids, any arrests after Hillary Clinton? We know she obstructed justice. We know she deleted 33,000 emails. We know she deleted all of them and used the acid washers the president was talking about, bleach pit, and then had the devices busted up with hammers. Anybody do anything there? Not a chance. Everything we've been telling you about, this two-tier justice system, we don't have equal justice under the law. It should be in the minds of every American citizen tonight. Robert Mueller is so far beyond his mandate. This is now spiraling out of control. Everything that we have warned you about is now coming to fruition. And Mueller has ostensibly tonight declared war against the President of the United States. Clearly, his objective is to remove him from office. Now, I told you, and I told anyone who will listen, Mueller's team is corrupt, starting with him, and it has been from the beginning. Now, show us the evidence of collusion or this investigation needs to end. Ultimately, Mueller's runaway investigation can all be traced back to one unfortunate act. The president alluded to this. The attorney general, Jeff Sessions, recusing himself from the Russia investigation, leaving Rod Rosenstein, let's see, Mueller's best friend, Comey's best friend, McCabe's best friend, to act in his behalf. He is basically the attorney general. And tonight, as this investigation is now spiraling out of control, it is time to start making moves, perhaps, maybe even like Congressman Mark Meadows suggested, impeaching Rosenstein. And we'll explain that later in the program. And this leads us directly, by the way, to our next story. The slow release of these subpoenaed documents from the Justice Department to the House Judiciary Committee, the House Intel Committee, regarding the FBI's Clinton email investigation and the potential FISA abuses during the presidential election. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, appointed a U.S. attorney to oversee the delivery of more than 1.2 million documents. So far, the Justice Department has offered 3,600. That's it. Why are they slow walking? Why aren't they handing over what Congress has subpoenaed, and it is their constitutional right to look at vis-a-vis oversight? According to a new report tonight from Sarah Carter, quote, some lawyers are now saying the DOJ's appointment is nothing but political theater to avoid contempt of Congress. Make no mistake, these documents are crucial if we're going to find answers about how the Obama Justice Department, under Loretta Lynch and the FBI Director James Comey, handled, or rather mishandled, the Clinton investigation. These documents will shed light on how Hillary was cleared of all charges. I've never heard of an exoneration before an investigation before, and I doubt any of you have as well. These documents could show how the FISA system was used to spy on a presidential campaign and how they lied to FISA court justice. Why won't the Justice Department release the unredacted FBI memo that Devin Nunes of the House Intel Committee has been demanding? What was used, of course, to justify the entire Russia collusion investigation to begin with. Now, this is more than frustrating, and just one more example that we now live in a country with a two-tier justice system. This is what I've been warning you about. The FBI is more than capable of tracing a Russia collusion investigation somehow to a porn star and the door of Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, but the Justice Department of the United States of America is slow walking and purposely not even releasing documents they have in their possession that has been subpoenaed by the United States Congress, the Judiciary Committee, the Intel Committee. It's shameful. This should alarm every person watching this broadcast tonight. And we'll have a lot more on that in a few minutes. Alan Dershowitz, Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett are all here. But the media, while they're obsessing over Michael Cohen, yeah, there are really important stories to bring to you. Over the weekend, according to multiple reports on the ground, an anti-Assad suburb of Damascus was subject to a deadly chemical weapons attack. Horrific video captured from the scene. It shows men, it shows women, it shows children gasping for air, foaming at the mouth, with many laying on the ground dead from what appears to be yet another gas attack from the Assad regime against their own people. And as we speak, the president is once again weighing his options in Syria. And here's what the president said about this earlier today.
We're going to make a decision tonight or very shortly thereafter, and you'll be hearing the decision. But we can't let atrocities like we all witnessed, and you can see that, and it's horrible. We can't let that happen. In our world, we can't let that happen, especially when we're able to, because of the power of the United States, because of the power of our country, we're able to stop it. We have a lot of options militarily, and we'll be letting you know pretty soon. Okay?
Thanks, everyone. Thank you all.
Probably after the fact.
Now, according to General Mattis, all options were on the table, including a military response in Syria. Earlier today, the president said he would make a decision in the next 24 to 48 hours. Russia and Iran are now coming to Assad's defense, denying Assad actually launched the chemical attack. And as I have said many times on this program, just one more reason this flawed Iranian nuclear deal needs to be canceled immediately. I believe the president will do that soon. Now, as the president said, Russia should also be paying a big price for supporting Assad, including new sanctions and political restrictions. And of course, this comes a little over a year after President Trump, remember, he launched dozens of cruise missiles, heavily damaging an airbase in Syria after a similar gas attack in 2017. And sadly, this also comes after years of complete and utter total inaction from the Obama administration. Remember, Obama's imaginary red line in the sand and the price we've now paid. This goes back to 2012.
We have communicated in no uncertain terms with every player in the region that that's a red line for us, and that there would be enormous consequences if we start seeing movement on the chemical weapons front or the use of chemical weapons. That would change my calculations significantly.
Now, of course, the red line was crossed, Obama's bluff was called, and the region fell into complete and utter chaos with many subsequent gas attacks to follow. Then in 2013, the Obama administration struck an utterly laughable diplomatic agreement with Assad, which guaranteed the removal of 100% of the chemical weapons from Syria. Okay, I guess they're not gone. As it turns out, murderous dictators are not exactly trustworthy, and Obama's policy in Syria ended up being a total failure, left to the president now to rectify. So with action now imminent in Syria tonight, we'll bring you any breaking developments as they happen. Also tonight, in an attempt to get ahead of James Comey's impending book tour, the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, is now speaking out, trying to explain some of, well, her unusual and potentially illegal actions during the FBI's Clinton email investigation back in 2016. Remember when Lynch directed the FBI director, James Comey, to call Clinton's criminal investigation a, quote, matter, not an investigation, and he listened. Now, take a look at how she now tries to explain this away, all while throwing poor James Comey under the bus before his book tour. This was an interview with NBC News.
This was a very sensitive investigation, as everyone knew. And the issue when he and I sat down at that time, which I think was early in the fall of 2015, was whether or not we were ready as a department to confirm an investigation going on, when we typically do not confirm or deny investigations into anything, with rare exceptions.
But so Comey says you want to call it the Clinton matter. He wants to call it the Clinton investigation. To the extent, though, that he noted it, that it bothered him, did he go to you and question your credibility with regard to the Clinton case?
Well, yeah, I can tell you that, it was a meeting like any other that we had where we talked about the issues. And we had a full and open discussion about it.
He didn't raise any concerns about it?
And concerns were not raised.
All right, we'll have more on Loretta Lynch's comments later in the show. First, joining us now to react to our top story tonight, author of the bestseller, Trumped Up, The Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. Famed Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz raided the president's personal attorney's home and his office and his hotel room. Russia collusion has now become Stormy Daniels' payment by his own lawyer?
Well, I think actually this does show us something significant about the investigation. I do think a decision has been made from the very top that the Mueller investigation is going to stick to Russia collusion, the campaign, obstruction of justice, and anything else relating to Trump's business dealings, any alleged relationships with payments to women, will be given over to the Southern District of New York. Now they'll work together. And this may be an attempt to squeeze Cohen. He's the lawyer. He's the guy who knows all the facts about Donald Trump, and to get him to turn against his client. Look, this is a very dangerous day today for lawyer-client relations. I deal with clients all the time. I tell them on my word of honor that what you tell me is sacrosanct. And now they say, just based on probable cause, even though this was cooperation with Cohen, they can burst into the office, grab all the computers, and then give it to another FBI agent and say, you're the firewall. We want you now to read all these confidential communications, tell us which ones we can get and which ones we can't get. You know, if this were the shoe on the other foot, if this were Hillary Clinton being investigated and they went into her lawyer's office, the ACLU would be on every television station in America, jumping up and down. The deafening silence of the ACLU and civil libertarians about the intrusion into the lawyer-client confidentiality is really appalling.
What about Trump sources close to the president tonight saying that this is to squeeze the president, that this is the end of any negotiations or any chance that President Trump will ever talk with Mueller and his team of investigators? And more importantly, look at the team. You have people that he appointed that have withheld and been found to have withheld exculpatory evidence in multiple cases. And I want to talk about that team.
Right. But one thing first, when lawyers think about cooperating with the prosecutors, they have to know that in exchange for cooperation, they'll get treated decently. And here you have lawyers cooperating. Trump's lawyers cooperated completely. Cohen cooperated completely. And what did they get for it? A raid on the office with everything being taken. So this sends a powerful message that cooperation is not going to be rewarded by Mueller. It's not going to be rewarded by the Southern District. And I think the result may very well be far less cooperation.
What would your advice be, if I can ask you, if you were talking to the president tonight? I would say all bets are off, that it's clear Mueller has a different agenda. I've been arguing this with different people that I know. And my argument has been is if you are Robert Mueller, and you made a comment on a radio show in New York about the Whitey Bulger. A lot of people in Boston.
We remember that very well.
You remember?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
sure.
But 4 men went to jail. Mueller was involved in the case. 2 of them died in jail. They were all later exonerated. Over $100 million judgment was paid. And issues involving exculpatory evidence was there, but also his pit bull, Andrew Weissman. Tens of thousands of jobs lost because of his tactics at Anderson Accounting. 9-0 decision against him in the Supreme Court. 4 Merrill executives in jail. That was overturned by the Fifth Circuit. And 2 examples of him withholding exculpatory evidence. He didn't appoint Weissman to be a potted plant. He knew his background. What does it say about Mueller and his team?
Well, they're zealous. Many people think they're overzealous. I don't think they're partisans. Here, you and I might disagree. I don't think they care whether they hurt the Democrats or the Republicans. Some on the team may. I don't think that's Mueller's approach. He is just determined to get his target. And when you appoint somebody to be a special counsel, there's a target on the back of the president, the target on the back of people close to the president.
Has he lost perspective?
I think he has lost perspective, and I think that happens when overzealous prosecutors are given a target. And the concern now is that there won't be cooperation. I think we will now see a scorched earth policy on both sides. Look, I don't give advice to the president except on television. If he wants to listen, he can listen. But if I were the president, I would at least seriously consider going to court tomorrow, seeking to have a judge get a hold of all the lawyer-client material, take it away from the prosecutor, take it away from the FBI. Don't let an FBI agent look at any of them. Have the judge go through it and have the judge make a determination as to whether there's anything in there that's lawyer-client privilege.
At this point, though, I don't see how the president and his team could cooperate.
It's hard. It's hard because they're not getting anything in return. Cooperation has to be a two-way street. Now, the problem, of course, for the president is that Mueller ultimately holds the card in which he can subpoena the president, call him in front of a grand jury without his lawyer, without restrictions, and it may be less worse for the president to make a deal and sit down and have a 4-hour conference.
Can the president not answer at that point and plead?
Well, he could not answer certain questions. For example, if he's asked, why did you fire Comey, his answer
Rod
should
Rosenstein
be,
told me.
well,
Yeah.
that's one answer, and how is Ron Rosenstein still in the case? The other answer is you cannot question a president's Article II decision-making authority, just like the Constitution says you can't question senators. The Supreme Court has said you can't question judges about their decisions. You can't question a president about decisions he made that he was authorized to make under the Constitution.
Last question. Does this now go on potentially for years, well past the midterms?
Oh, there's no question. I think I
There's gonna
can't
be a fight.
imagine how this ends before the midterms. And if it ends just before the midterms with a report that's condemnatory of the administration, imagine the outrage that will occur if, again, we see the Justice Department potentially impacting an election.
And Mueller wanted this. He set out to do that. When he gave this to the Southern District of New York today, that's what his plan was.
Well, I think his plan was to squeeze, to try to make sure he stays within his mandate, but then to use the Southern District to squeeze Cohen. If they can get Cohen to become a cooperating witness, I doubt that will ever happen, but that's the tactic prosecutors often use.
All right, Professor, good to see you. Thank you.
Nice, thank
When
you.
we come back, Alan Dershowitz actually stays with us. We'll check in with Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett later. Yes, I'll finally respond to Kimmel's apology, or so-called apology, to the First Lady, Melania Trump, as we continue on this busy breaking news night. Straight ahead. All right, as we continue, law professor Alan Dershowitz is back with us. Also with us, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Greg, we'll start with you. Your interpretation of the raid on Michael Cohen and what this means today.
Well, I think the president was right to be frustrated and angry. Americans should be outraged. This is an abuse of the system. Here you have an attorney general who should never have recused himself and seems to be rather incompetent on the matter. You've got corrupt acts by top officials of the FBI, and you've got Rosenstein and Mueller who have abused the law. And today was a perfect example of this. And for what? A contract with a porn star to make her go away. It was a valid contract, the best we can tell. There's an offer, acceptance, and consideration. Consideration's
So we
money.
do have contract law in this country. It's still applicable?
And it's not illegal to engage in a contract to make somebody go away. She took the $130,000.
I think it happens every day, hundreds of thousands of times. All right, Sarah, let's go to the other side of this and the double standard aspect in all of this. And to me, it is glaring. And that is, well, I don't think Greg Jarrett and Professor Dershowitz would get me off the hook if I deleted 33,000 emails and then I acid washed my hard drive and then I beat up my devices. And I don't think that James Comey would give me an exoneration that he's writing months before he talked to me or investigated the case. Nor do I think
I'd get you off the hook.
you'd get.
I'd prove this wasn't criminal. And
You'd prove
say
it wasn't
political. Yeah.
And similarly, look at the FISA abuses. If I lied to a judge anywhere, why am I scared to death? I'd be handcuffed, perp walked, mugshotted, and put in jail, and you'd bring me a file in a cake.
Well, I think that people will be indicted for lying. In fact, that's what I've been told. And also, Sean, I think let's go back to the very beginning of this. You're absolutely right. We haven't seen them raid Hillary Clinton's home, raid her apartments, look into her history, raid her attorney's offices. I think the American public sees enough evidence here to say, wait, there is a double standard going on here, and it far surpasses anything they've ever seen in the past. People will not accept this. And I can tell you right now, based on what I'm hearing and looking at the mission creep by Mueller, it's not going to stand. If you just look at how they've slow-rolled the document.
How does it not stand? Mueller's going to keep doing his job.
Mueller is going to keep doing his job. But remember, the American public is going to be the judge of this. And they have found no evidence of collusion with Russia. What they can do is try to corner the president and pressure him. But remember, there's pressure on their side, too, and that's coming from the American public. And I'm telling you, people are not going to stand for this. They're going to ask that there be an investigation. We're waiting for that IG report from Horowitz. We're also waiting to see where Huber is going with this. I'm assuming after Comey. I know, but it's coming. Me too.
Look, the only good thing that's come of this is conservatives are becoming civil libertarians. You guys care about the Constitution now.
I always have. I always have.
It's so important because the people on the left don't seem to care about the Constitution. Everybody just picks sides. And that's a very great danger.
Well, Professor, let me ask you. I mean, the New York Times comes out, a Ukrainian, $150,000. All this gets dropped and thrown out there, and then the media is hysterical and breathless reporting, and then it turns out to be nothing.
Well, let me tell you about that, because I happen to know a lot about that. I represented Kuchma, the president of Ukraine, in the Ukraine.
The person involved in this
The person involved in this, and his son-in-law, Viktor Pinchek, who was one of the most charitable, generous people in the world. He gave millions of dollars to the Clinton campaign, and of course he's going to pay $150,000 to get Donald Trump to speak. He'd have paid $250,000 to get other businessmen. That's
Greg Jarrett wants an invitation. He wants to speak there.
I'm in the speaking business. No, I get paid to speak, and people pay a lot of money to hear speakers like Donald Trump. And imagine if Gates or Zuckerberg were asked.
People pay me to speak, Professor. I know that's shocking to you, but yeah, I've been in that business.
So this is really a fake story. I don't know where it's coming from. $150,000.
It's not surprising.
To a foundation.
Greg?
Yeah,
what's wrong?
This is driven by the media narrative. But today's events, let me just say this, should put the nail in the coffin of any inclination the president ever had to sit down with Mueller. I think he's proven that he's forgotten the canon of ethics, which is the duty of a public prosecutor is not to gain a conviction, but to see that justice is done. This was always an investigation in search of a crime which the law does not allow. The president should say, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to answer questions about a non-crime called collusion. And to the professor's point earlier, he should not answer any questions about his decision that he's authorized.
So now we're
going to
have an executive privilege fight. Now we're going to have a constitutional showdown. Yes or no?
Yeah, sure. Why not? And by the way, tomorrow, in addition,
I agree with you. Why not?
In addition to having a judge take over and be the clean team to look at these attorney-client privilege documents, the attorneys for the president should file a motion to quash what happened today.
Well, that's basically what I suggested. And of course, some people are saying the president should plead the fifth. He should not plead the fifth. Let me tell you why. If he pleads the fifth, Mueller gives him immunity. And then he has to testify, and immunity doesn't cover impeachment. So pleading the fifth would be exactly the wrong thing to do.
Isn't that ultimately Mueller's goal, though? He writes a report.
Sure.
In the hopes that Congress uses it to impeach him. That's the plan.
I think that's the plan. And he's not going to come to conclusions in the report. He's just going to lay out what the evidence is in a way that will make it hard if the Democrats gain control.
Theories, cheap shot personal attacks. My point in all of this is, at the end of the day, it's hurting those American people. And it's really hurting the ability of the president to even have a month to do his job. But for me, this is the line in the sand. You leave women and kids alone, I'm done. And that's why I took on Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not trying to be the thought police, and I sure as heck don't want political correctness. I've never supported boycotts, never will. And Jimmy, by the way, conservatives like me who support illegal immigration, we're not anti-immigration. We believe in legal immigration. And just as responsible people can disagree about some of the crazy things you've done in the past, I say let the audience decide. And I've noticed, by the way, Jimmy, you seem focused on politics. You seem sincere when you talked about health care. You seem sincere when you talk about the country. I want to extend Send an invitation. You want to come on the show? I'll probably people that I disagree with vehemently. My bet is you'll actually agree with me on a lot more issues than you think. But from my point of view, it's over with Jimmy Kimmel. But I meant what I said. Unfair attacks. There need to be an end to this. There's no shortage, by the way, of comedic material out there. By the way, Jimmy, if you do want to start up again, I promise I'll punch back even harder. And producer spent all weekend compiling a lot of your highlights or lowlights in your career. They don't make you look too good. So instead of airing them, we'll put them in storage, and we have more important pressing issues like what's happening in Syria and the gassing of women and children. All right, when we come back, the video of the day and the return. Laura Ingraham is back. Straight ahead.